Well, it is freezing cold here in Tennessee. So I'm inside, and I figured I'd come inside and do this video from the source of my challenges this week. Have you ever had a leaky faucet? Mine was leaking terribly. And I'd already fixed it once in this house, but I didn't do a good job and I wasn't certain that it was going to hold, and sure enough, started leaking again. If you are mechanically or DIYer minded, you know what the solution is going to be. If you've got these two little nozzles right here, you just pop them out, pull out the cartridge. If you need to replace the cartridge, you can, but more than likely, it's just going to be two little seals that are causing all of the problem. These are essentially what those seals are. These little rubber seals and springs here will keep your water from dripping whenever you don't want it to run. I'd already replaced it once since I've been in the house, so I didn't think I did a good job. So instead of just getting those rubber seals and springs, I went ahead and got two new cartridges so that I could replace both of them at the same time. I'm not the best DIYer, but I'm willing to try. So I went out to the front yard and I shut the water off, came inside, had my tools set out, and I was ready to tackle the problem. Well, I get everything taken apart and I'm ready to put it back together, but the problem is there's no instructions on the cartridges on how you're supposed to put the springs and those rubber seals in there. It seemed pretty straightforward, so I thought that I had it right. Put it in a specific way, went outside, turned the water back on, and came back into the house, and I just heard this gushing water from the bathroom where I knew my fix did not take. Needless to say, I was frustrated, but I went back out to the front yard, shut off the water, and came back in and figured I'll just flip everything around and it should be able to hold this next time. So I go through the process, pulling out the cartridges, putting them back together, getting the springs and the rubber seals flipped around so that it would hold the way I knew that it needed to, because obviously if I'd done it wrong the first time, just flip it. It's totally fine. So I put everything back together, put the handles on, screw them in, go back out to the front yard, turn on the water, come back inside, and it's still flowing like crazy. Thankfully, my wife and kids were not at the house because I may have screamed a little bit whenever I came back inside. I couldn't believe it. I'd spent all this time, had done it right. One of the two times, you would think it would be right, but there's no instructions. And all of the instruction videos that I saw on YouTube did not say anything about how it was supposed to go in. The only information they said was make sure when you pull that out, look at how it's in there, because you got to put it right back in the exact same way. Well, the way they sit, as soon as I pulled out the cartridge, they kind of spilled out from the wall, and I didn't get to see how they were in there, so I just get to guess. And I'm not the best guesser when it comes to fixing things. So I have the water shut off and I disassemble it for the third time, fuming the whole time, thinking, well, I'm going to get it this time. If I'm not going to get it, I'm just going to scream again. Well, I put it back together and I made sure that it was sealed in there well, hoped that I had it in there right, went out, turned on the water, came back inside, and thankfully there was no running water. I was elated. I couldn't believe it. After finally fighting with this thing for, you don't want to know how long, I was able to get it taken care of in time for my kids to come home and have their evening bath, and the nozzles turned better than they'd ever turned since we'd been in the house. I wish that I could say that it was 3 and done, but 2 days later, that freaking drip started again. I couldn't believe it. I was so angry and I was so just hopeless in the moment. I started to admit defeat. I was ready to call a plumber and have a professional come out and fix what I couldn't do on my own. I had to go to work though, and as I was at work, I was just thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, no, I am not going to let this thing defeat me. This is stupid. It's a bathroom faucet. I can fix this. I can figure it out. I don't care if the answer's out there. I can do this. There's only 4 different ways that these things can go in there. I'm going to figure out the combination and make it work. So as soon as I get off work, the first thing I do is I shut the water off outside of the front of the house, come inside, get my tool set up, pull it all apart, flip it around the way I think it's supposed to go, and sure enough, that one little rubber seal that I'd been trying to force in there started to warp a little bit. I put it all back together because I was confident this is how it was supposed to go in there. I looked up some other instructions, tried to find anybody who could give me a little bit more detail than what I was finding originally, and I was very confident that I was going to be able to get it in there the right way. And I did. Even though it had the warped rubber on there, which I know is going to go bad quicker than it normally would if I put it together the right way. That's why I ordered that extra set that I just showed you, because I'm not going to allow something like this to keep me down. So let me ask you, what are you tenacious about? Is there anything in your life that tries to defeat you? Maybe something big, maybe something simple, but that you are unwilling to allow it to get the best of you? Or are you willing to call it quits? Don't sell yourself short. As a man, we constantly are facing opposition. And when we give in, when we give up, it does something to us in our core. There's something to be said whenever you have that tenacity and you fight through something. Even if it's shutting the water off 4 different times to try and put the freaking faucet together 4 different times. I promise you, there's something that you feel inside of you when you rise to the occasion, when you don't let something get the best of you, but instead you work through to a solution and solve it. I know I'm not out in the garage with my cigar, so it's a little bit different scenario, but I hope that you appreciated this story. Hope you liked my pink bathroom. We got this when we moved in and everybody seems to appreciate it, so I thought I'd show it off as well. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I'd greatly appreciate it if you would consider subscribing. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. Put something down in the comments section. Share it on social media. And I will see you next time, hopefully, when we can share a cigar and change the world.